Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam, and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with non-gamers.
And today we're taking a look at Looot by Games, brought to the US by Hachette Games.
Loot is a game in which you are going to be trying to chain together your Vikings along with the other players' Vikings to collect resources out on the map, placing them on your personal board in a strategic way so that you can surround your longships to flip them over for scoring opportunities to increase the number of points that you get for the resources that you've put on your board. This is a game in which your resources can count in many different ways. Let's go down to the table where I'll show you how this one works, and then we'll come back and share our thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, I have Loot on the table. Let me show you all about this Viking game. Now, with this game, for components, what you're going to have these large triangle-shaped tiles that are going to be what make up the main part of the game, the main board of this game. There's going to be one per player, and so you do have some that are going to be out here. If you're playing in a fewer than 4-player game, you're not going to use all of these, but you do have 4 of these to use in case you are playing a 4-player game, and these are double-sided to add some replayability, variability in the setup of what the board looks like for your game. In addition to these giant triangle tiles, there's going to be 2 tiles, one at the start area of the map. This is going to be the shore where the longships are going to be placed on. And then on the far end of the board, you're going to have where you keep the battle axe trophies that I just knocked off, 2 of them off this board. These are going to be worth lots of points, and I'll explain what those are all about here at the end of this video. But then you are going to also have this bag, and the longship tiles are going to be stored in this bag. You'll be drawing them out throughout the course of the game. You do also have lots of other tiles, lots of resources in this game, from trees to sheep to molten rocks. Yeah, there's lots of different resources in this game. Players are going to have their own set of Viking meeples that they will be placing out on the board. As you can see, they're pretty cool. And players are also going to have their own personal boards. Now, these boards are cardstock. They're kind of thin, and there are going to be some tiles that are on these boards that are going to be placed on these specific spots that you can work towards. These are goals that are going to give you points, and then also some special actions that you can do once per game. Now, how this game is going to work, there are going to be kind of 2 things going on in this game. You're going to be placing your Vikings out here on the communal board, trying to get different resources, trying to link together your Vikings, and the resources that you gain out here are going to be placed on your personal board. And there's a spatial element that goes with where you place your tiles on your personal board. So let's look at this board first. On your turn, it's very simple. All you're going to be doing is taking one of your Vikings and placing it on the board in a legal spot. So what's a legal spot? Well, the first Viking that you place has to be placed along the shore or next to a Viking of another player who has gone before you. So if I'm the very first player, the only places I can go are here, 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 or here, because that is along the shore. And I couldn't actually go here because this is a house, and there would be a house tile, a stack of house tiles on this spot, as well as these spots out here. There would be castle tiles and watchtower tiles, and there would be a certain number of these based depending upon the number of players in the game, but you would get the idea. These would all be filled in. So let's just say that maybe I go right here on this tree. And wherever I end up placing my Viking, I would gain that type of resource. So I would gain a tree tile, and then I would be placing this on my personal board. So let's take a look at the personal board. Now, I mentioned that you have some tiles that you already start the game with on your board. They go in specific spots, and these tiles are randomized, and so it's not going to look the same for every player. In fact, I don't have any trees on any of mine, so I definitely would not be going for a tree. So let's take that turn back, and let's say that I actually went, let's say I went right here. With the soldiers, that's going to get me a battle axe. And so here is the battle axe resource. And so looking back at my board again, I've got a battle axe on this tile and a battle axe on that tile. Let's start with this one because it only requires 3 different resources. I just need to place this battle axe adjacent to this tile, so I could place it right there. And now I have contributed 1 battle axe to this tile. If I can get a house and a molten rock next to this tile, then I would be able to flip it over, and that would get me points at the end of the game. Specifically, this one gets me 5 points, as denoted right there at the bottom of the tile. So yeah, that's all you're doing on a turn. I've placed my Viking, and I've gained my resource. Now it would be the other player's turn, and they again could go along the shore, or they could go next to my Viking. So this space would be legal right here. So maybe they do that. Maybe they go right there, and they would gain a molten rock, and then it would be my turn. And I would place another Viking. Now, in addition to what I've shown you, on my turn, if I wanted to, I could take one of these longships. And these longships are additional goals that I could be working towards. So, for instance, maybe I take this one right here because it has a battle axe on it. And I would then place this on my board in one of the spots that I have available to me. And this battle axe right here, I could use it towards this goal as well. So maybe I place it right there because this battle axe is now contributing not only to this tile, but this tile as well. And I would just need to get a molten rock and a sheep. And hey, look, a molten rock on this one and that one. I could place that right there and it would count towards both of those. That is the idea of what you want to do with this game. You want to be able to use your resources for more than one scoring tile. And so that's the idea. There's a spatial element of placing your tiles strategically. So looking at the board, I don't have a way to get to a molten rock just yet because this player has placed on that, and you cannot go on top of another space that a player has already gone to, unless you use one of your special abilities. I mentioned you have 3 special abilities that you can use throughout the course of the game, and they are one-time use abilities. This one in particular allows you to go on a space that another player has already gone on. So I could spend this right here, and that would indeed let me go on a spot that a player has already gone on, and I would then gain that molten rock resource. If instead I could spend this one right here, and this one would let me take 2 turns at once. I would get to place 2 of my Vikings back to back, and that's really pretty nice. And then this one right here allows me to gain double the resources, which is really nice when you use it at the right time. So if I were to go here, and you can spend 2 of these on the same turn, that is legal, I would gain 2 molten rocks. But I wouldn't really need that for my board setup right now. Now, anytime you go next to a house, you would gain one of the houses that are on that tile, in addition to the resource that you're supposed to be gaining. Now, the watchtowers are a little bit different. You're going to need to chain together a chain of your specific Vikings from one watchtower to another watchtower, and you will gain 1 watchtower token from the 2 that you have chained together. And so that is what you're going to be doing with the watchtowers. Now, the castles are different. If you were to get a chain of 4 of your Vikings together, with at least one of them being adjacent to the castle, well, then you will earn 1 castle tile from that stack. If instead you had a chain of 8 Vikings, where at least one Viking was adjacent to the castle, then you would gain 2 castle tiles from the stack. Now, in order to take the last tile from the stack, because there's going to be 3 tiles in the stack with the castles, you would have to have 12 of your Vikings chained together, and that's really hard to do, but that's the only way to be able to take the last castle tile from a stack. Now, there are other castles throughout the course of the board, so there's not just one opportunity to get it, but that is the only way to get the last one on the board. And these specific ones, the houses, the castles, the watchtowers, those are going to be the requirements to fulfill these tiles that start the game on your board. So they're pretty hard to do, and that's why they give you extra points. Now, these longships that you're going to be taking, which are optional. You don't have to take these longships, but when you fulfill them, you'll flip them over, and at the bottom, it gives you a little bit of an indicator as to what this is going to do for you. It's going to beef up the points for the different types of resources you have on your board. This one in particular is going to beef up your sheep. And so we flip it over, and it shows us that we get 1 additional point for every sheep on our board. If you look down here at the bottom part of your board, there's a scoring regimen that tells us how many points each different type of tile, each different type of resource is going to give us at the end of the game. And right now, the sheep are only giving us 1 point, but if I have this flipped over, it's going to increase it by another point. And so that's going to really help me out with my sheep. Now, if I don't have any sheep out here, then this really isn't doing me any good. So not only do you want to be paying attention to the longships that you can complete and using your resources in double or triple ways even, you really want to pay attention to the ones that are going to help you out with the resources that you already have on your board, giving you extra points for those. Now, your castles are going to give you points, your watchtowers are going to give you points, your houses are going to give you points, and these tiles are also going to give you points. But there is one last way that you will be getting points in this game, and it's this special spot right here, which is going to be where you place your battle axe trophy. I mentioned that there is a battle axe trophy. It's way on the far end of the board. And this is just going to be counting up your different battle axes that you gather throughout the course of the game. And when you've met one of these requirements, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 battle axes, you can claim that trophy at the end of your turn if it's still available. The catch is you can only claim 1 trophy throughout the course of the game. And so if I claim the 4, for instance, it's good for 10 points. But then if I were to get a 5th battle axe at some point throughout the course of the game, and this is still here, well, I can't claim it because I've already claimed the 4. So this is trying to be wise about how far should you go with the battle axes, because, you know, you don't want to go out too early and then actually end up not giving yourself full credit for what you've already gathered. Anyhow, that's the gist of what you're going to be doing in this game. Again, getting points for flipping over these tiles that you've completed. The other thing about these longships, if you don't complete them, if you don't flip them over, they are worth -5 points. So you don't want to just be taking all of these, because if you don't complete them, they're negative points. Plus, they also clog up your board. They take up spots on your board. So one of the ways the game is going to end is if you run out of Vikings, that's going to end your game. So you got to be wise about where you're placing your tiles. But anyhow, that's the gist here of what we got going on with Loot. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Loot from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So Sam, initial thoughts when seeing this out on the table. There are lots of little tiles. There are some that go in a bag, some that don't. You've got your personal boards. You've got the main boards. I mean, there's I wouldn't say there's a lot of components with this one, but there's maybe more components than what we typically see here on this channel. What were your initial thoughts seeing this on the table?
It reminded me of Catan because it had the sheep.
Okay. Yeah.
And
lots of hexes.
Yeah, and you put them together.
I guess I could see that. Yeah.
Resources.
Sure. Yeah. A Viking themed Catan, maybe. No dice in this one though, so there's one, major difference between the two. But yeah, no, I could see that, I suppose. But I more so was wondering, did this at all, was it intimidating in any way, given the number of maybe components that there could be out on the table?
I do feel like my intimidation index has gone
way lower. Yeah. Okay.
In the last 5 years. But no, I mean, there's components, but it's not visually overwhelming.
So this could just have been my own kind of feelings towards the game. I will let you guys know at home, I played this one on BGA, Board Game Arena, before actually trying it, the physical components with this. And playing it on BGA, they do a great job tutorial. They walk you through how the game works. But getting this in person, trying to open it, put it out on the table, and explain it to Sam, my initial thought was, I don't know. She might not have such a great time with this, just because it might have felt to me that it was a bit too much. But maybe not.
Help that by the time I sit down, he has it all set up, knows the rules. So he's taking out of the box. I'm coming to the table when it's already ready. So
fair enough. I just wanted to get it out there that my initial impression was this might be teetering on the edge of just maybe too complex. But maybe not. Maybe not if you didn't really feel that way. And the game is only 35 minutes long, so this isn't like a super complex game that's going to take hours. But it felt to me like it could be that, but maybe not. So.
My eyes immediately now go to the box, the age, and the time. And that's kind of how I judge do I think that I'm going to be able to play this?
Gotcha. So let's talk about the actual gameplay and what it was like for you, Sam. What was your experience trying to navigate your way through this one, trying to find successful strategy and just ultimately being good at this game?
I definitely think it's one of those games where, for me, I want to do everything and you can't. And so it's trying to figure out where that strategy is. And I did have a hard time, not in a bad way, not in a like, I'm getting frustrated in a, gosh, I wish I had more time, more turns, more resources so I could do everything. And just figuring out, I don't think I did well the first time figuring out which area was going to get me the most points. I was just kind of going with feelings. I think there's certain things I would pay more attention to the next time. Yeah,
absolutely. In fact, for me, as I've played this game several times now, the thing that I soon discovered after the first couple of playthroughs was that just because you can complete a ship shouldn't mean that that's the ship you select for yourself.
And I don't think I thought about that.
Because maybe that ship doesn't pay out the best for you because, sure, it increases your trees, but if you only have 2 trees, who cares, right? Like you need the ones that work well for what you've got on your board.
So you really have to think through that decision.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know that on the surface of playing this. That's something that comes along after you played it several times.
Except one of those games where you play it the first time and you're like, I need to play it again. Yeah. I understand now.
Right. And then you mentioned another thing about it is you have that stress of I need another turn or I need another Viking.
Which I think it's a good kind of stress.
Absolutely.
I do like having that in a game. I don't like it to be, there's levels.
Yes.
And it was the right level of
I agree with that. And I think the game works fine at the lower player counts, but I think you get more of that at the higher player counts simply because people are going to the spots that you might need to go to, more competition for those castles, those watchtowers, the houses, the things that run out quickly. And that's a nice thing about this game.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to pros and cons here for this one. So the bullet point highlights of the things that work well and maybe not so well with Loot. What were the good things? The pros, excuse me.
I mean, it wasn't a intellectually challenging game.
Okay.
I mean, it was pretty easy to understand and figuring out your own strategy. So I don't, I think it was a good game for gamers and non-gamers.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. 35 minutes, I think, is really pretty accurate with this one. And it definitely feels like a quick 35 minutes in the sense of like what we just said not too long ago, that I need another turn, that aspect of it. Like it's coming into an end, but not ending too quickly because there are getting games that feel that way. And I don't feel like that with this one. I do like the way it looks out on the table. It's a lot of green. But, it definitely works for what it is. And I like the dual board aspect of trying to connect something up here and then adding that to my board down here. That worked for me. That was a nice visual change for me, I think. So anything that maybe doesn't work so great?
There was a couple, mainly I'm going to say this wrong, not longest road, but the one that connects.
Like the castles?
Yeah.
Trying to get somebody to connect to it.
It felt like once somebody was just even a few ahead, the other person had no chance.
Yes.
And that's where Lance really got ahead of me. And I wasn't really paying attention to it at the beginning. But I did feel like it really is one person's going to get that. And there wasn't a lot of competition there.
Yeah, and I think now that you say that, I think if there is a con that I maybe have with the game, it is that sense that if you're not able to do well placing your Vikings and chaining them together, you're not going to win this game. Yeah. There's just not really a way to do it. And it
almost felt like there wasn't enough spaces that you could do that without completely solely focusing on that.
Yeah.
Like I almost felt like my first 2 were placed in the wrong spot for me to even.
Okay.
go that
Yeah,
route.
I think you're right. And in a higher player count game, that's probably even going to be more strenuous because there's going to be more competition going for that. So that is something.
I don't think I'd want to play it with a higher player count.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that is something to be said for this game, that aspect
really, it's just that aspect.
It's the chaining of your Vikings to get to the watchtowers and the castle. That's so vitally important because those are your money makers. Those are the ones that are going to score you big points. And if you strike out on those,
which I really did,
you're going to need to be perfect on everything else, and even then you still might not win. So I think you're right, that chaining thing is so vitally important. But for me, I think the rest of the game is a very enjoyable experience that I think it can kind of, I don't know, make up for that. What do you think?
I think I would like to play it a couple more times, knowing what I know, to see how it plays out. So.
Yeah, sure. That's fair. Okay, let's get to our scores here for Loot. This is one that, as you probably picked up, I've played it a lot on BGA, so I do like this one quite a bit. I'm glad we have a copy now because I do want to keep this one in our collection. That's how much I like it. I think I'm probably going to come in at about a 7.9. It's right there, right under like maybe the games that I would be strongly considering for top 10 of the year, kind of. This might be top 20, 25, like that range. So I really do like this one quite a bit. I like the aspect of, like I said earlier, just because you can complete that ship doesn't necessarily mean that's the ship you should take or even go for. You really got to be very wise in picking which ships you should be going for. Utilizing the space that you have available on your board, because that space fills up really quick, and you want to be smart about what you're putting on your board and where you're putting it. The spatial aspect of this game is so enjoyable. That's one of the things I really like about it the most. So 7.9 is where I'm coming in at on this one. What about you, Sam?
Mine's like pretty much lower, a good bit lower. I'd probably give it like a 7.1, 7.2.
All right.
I do think it's one of those games where it could go higher or lower. I think I would definitely play it again. And with those subsequent plays, it could either go higher or it could go lower.
Okay.
So I'd give it a 7.2 right now.
All right. Fair enough.
It's not my top.
Not your top 10 or 25 either, probably. All right, fair enough. Well, that's our thoughts here on Loot from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. It comes to us from Gigamic Games, brought to the U.S. by Hachette Games. Leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about this one.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.